Hello the internet, and welcome back to Road Hazard. Today you join me in my brother's garage with the Buick, and more importantly, a big pile of stuff. The astutely automotive among you will recognize this is an air conditioning kit. This is one of those universal under dash units. We're gonna give this thing a shot. This was all one purchase with the exception of these brackets. I had to buy the brackets separately, but you know, it happens. You can't expect a universal kit to come with everything, but it did come with everything else. We got a condenser, a dryer, all the wiring, the hoses, the fittings, clamps, the condenser, the brackets, drain, everything else to put air conditioning in this car. So, basically, what we're going to start doing in today's video is figuring out how to install this kit. But first, I wanted to show you something inside the car. My brother happens to be like the best automotive detailer on the planet, and he freaking styled me. Remember how gross it was in here? He washed the mats, the pedals, the carpet, the door panels, the seats, every inch of the exterior paint, the glass inside and out, the dash, the gauges, I mean everything. We'll roll it out into the sun at some point so you can get a better look, but I mean, we've got mirror finish on that paint now, and you can see just how good this car looks. It's fantastic. And now that there's not all that weight, you know, in the back, that spring came back up, which means I'm gonna ignore that problem until it becomes a problem again. But golly, just look at that. She is handsome. But I digress. Air conditioning. So that kit, the bracket kit I bought, is gonna put the compressor about here, which is good because obviously we got plenty of space because we don't have power steering. We're gonna have to find out how we're gonna route the hoses, probably through the firewall, I would imagine, but we're gonna have to find out kind of where we want to put it and try and do it very cleanly so it looks okay. And then we got to go under the dash inside the car and find out how we're gonna mount the condenser. We got to mount the not the condenser, the evaporator. We got to put the condenser in front of the radiator here. See if we can figure out a way to get that down there somewhere. Lots of bugs on that rad. And then, you know, once that's all capitulated, we'll go ahead and throw in this wiring harness, get it all programmed up, get the fan hooked up and all that nonsense. So that way, when we're in the car in this insane Florida heat, we'll have air conditioning. It's got 4 speeds, little blend door in there. This is the temp control. Getting away from me. The unit itself, this is a very ping pong plastic, I will say. So I have my doubts, but for what this cost, I don't know if I really can complain. This whole kit was like $500, and then the brackets were another $70 from another seller. So we'll see. First things first, we got to see if the brackets will hold the compressor in the car. So we're going to pull the brackets and bits out of the bags, bolt them onto the engine, and see how they fit. The brackets did not come with like fitment instructions or anything like that, so we're just gonna wing it. The AC kit did come with some Chinglish instructions, so we might be able to figure that out. We'll see. Luckily, everything appears to be labeled, so that shouldn't be too difficult for even an idiot like myself. But I digress. So we'll start the compressor, and if we can get that on the car, we know this kit's gonna work, and we'll probably mount the condenser next because that's pretty simple to do. And we'll go from there. Okay, so it's on there. It's super loose, but I just wanted to kind of make sure it was all gonna fit, and it does. You'll notice we're missing our upper radiator hose now. I had to like scientifically drain the coolant out of this thing because I didn't want to spill a drop because this isn't my garage. So I did that, managed to do all of that without spilling any coolant, and we got it all on there. It bounced through like the exhaust bolts and the water pump and all this crazy stuff. So basically, the edge of the hose was hitting the bracket just about here. And we're gonna be able to clear that by cutting about 1 inch off the hose. So we're gonna do that. It should clear. I'm really hoping the belt will clear as well. We'll find out if that's gonna be the case or not. But it does all fit, which is awesome. And it looks like the innermost pulley here is going to line up with the innermost one on the crankshaft. So good there. It's bolted up. That's kind of the tricky part. Well, besides, you know, the rest of it. So we'll get this kind of where we want it. Get the hose shortened up, get it on there, make sure our belt's gonna fit, and then after that, we should be good to tighten all this stuff up and, you know, dump our coolant back in. We only drained probably about half a quart of coolant out of it. Basically just what was in the hose and above this point in the radiator, so not a lot came out, but we got it in a clean bin, so we'll just dump it right back in with the funnel and everything. Be fine. And then we'll look at throwing our condenser in there, the evaporator, and all that bracketry and stuff. And then seeing where all that kind of stuff lines up here. So wish me luck. Okay. We figured out, I think, what we're going to do here. First of all, got this figured out, got it all up there, and you know, it's on there. It's got everything tight, should be good. The wiring harness is over there. We're not gonna worry about that yet, but we got all the fittings on to all of the bits and pieces. We got all the connections for the dryer and all that stuff. And we also went ahead and set up the condenser. We got our fan mounted on there. There's 3 zip ties per side, so I'm sure it's going to be fine. Got the fittings and the O-rings and everything in there. We're going to mount this in front of our rad. This is a pusher fan. I figure with a pusher on the front and the puller on the motor, we'll get that that we're looking for, even when we're at a dead stop. So this is going to go here towards the right side of the rad. What we're going to do is go to the hardware store probably tomorrow and get a couple of pieces of bar stock, and we'll bend them up, make a little Z bracket basically. We'll slam some screws in that to hold it onto the core support here, and then we'll put some screws through the little pre-made tabs on either side of the thing, and that'll be the right side there. And then for the left side, we'll just use another piece of bar stock, and we'll go from, we'll make a little bracket for the top of it, boop, and we'll make another one for the bottom of it, boop. It'll go right down there, and that'll anchor this thing exactly where it needs to be, and get us close enough to the radiator that we'll get that kind of tunnel of air effect that you want with these things. And then once that's mounted there, and that's already up, we will get a bolt. We're gonna get a hardware kit, but we'll get a bolt and a nut for the bracket for the dryer, and we'll get the dryer mounted probably on this fender, probably down here, and then we don't have a whole lot of hose, so we want to keep these runs kind of as short as possible, and we'll mock it all up before we obviously start slamming stuff together, but we'll get that up there. And then once everything under the hood is set up, we'll run all those hoses, get the clamps on them, get those good to go. And the last piece of the puzzle will of course be our evaporator, which is going to go under the dash. I'm gonna grab that and mock it up here in a second to see maybe where we're gonna be able to get it to fit, but I think I want to put it right down here. We'll use these supplied brackets to kind of get it to sit just underneath our gauges, and then kind of, back towards there. The only thing I'm worried about there is, of course, the back of the unit being blasted by the heater, but at the same time, we're not going to be using the heat at the same time we're using the air. So it might not matter, and if it ever comes to the point where we're like, what we can do is either A, we can make a little fuzzy cardboard block plate that goes right here, so all the heat gets shot into the footwells instead of out the front, or we can make a little diverter so that the heat goes down and out instead of straight forward. So basically, I'm not worried about that, is the moral of that story. But we'll throw the unit in here in a second and just see how it fits. See if we can still grab all of our gears and, without punching stuff. And then once we have that figured out, basically all we got to do is plug stuff in, and then we got to go rent the air conditioning vacuum pump thing from the parts store and pull a vacuum into our system before charging it with some R134. The alternative is taking it to an AC shop or a shop that services AC and having them do it for us, because man, wouldn't that be nice to just drop it off, hang out in an air-conditioned building for half an hour and then be done with it. But that's not really in our blood, is it? So we'll throw it in there real quick, see how it fits, and then we'll go from there. I'm pretty sure I've been in denial of how big this unit is this whole time. For some reason, it seemed smaller to me, but it's a big chonking unit, and if I put it underneath the gauges, it's gonna hit the shifter and everything else and not fit. So basically my options are put it where my feet go so it hits the pedals and I can't drive the car, or put it in the passenger footwell and have it stick out 85 feet because of the heater box, or move the gauges. So, and in the instructions it even says if you have gauges under your dash you might have to move them, so we're gonna have to move these. I don't know where, but I'm thinking the other, oh man, I don't want to put them down there being my feetsies, but I think we're gonna have to. So If we get the 3 wide, we'll get the measuring tape and start taking some measurements, but we might be able to get that all the way butted up on the end of this piece of the dash here. And then if we put the fuel gauge on the other side, that might work. I need to check where my leg goes when I'm pressing the clutch. I don't want to be bashing my knee on this thing or my shins. And then we need to figure that out. The other thing we might be able to do, using the little bolt pieces to the bracket on this thing, we might be able to make a piece, like a bar, that kind of comes down and connects like a U-shaped deal, and hang the gauges off of that underneath the unit. And I kind of like the idea of that, but I'm just not sure if we'll have clearance for that when we're in third or first. So we'll have to measure all that stuff, but that might work as well. But man, in the meantime, we're gonna figure something out, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, we gotta move these gauges. They gotta go somewhere else. That was the crux of that. I don't want to put them all the way over here, because that's stupid. This little side unit here will act as a ball chiller, because it'll be pointed directly at my crotch. And I live in Florida, so that's kind of cool. Bring back the ball chiller. All right, did some figuring. Brought my brother in, who's too smart for his own good. Kind of figure out where this thing's gonna fit. Right there. You can see we already kind of got it mounted up. The gauges are down there, all disconnected and discombobulated, but we got a plan for that too. Okay. We got a plan for the gauges. Once they're all reconnected and uncombobulated there, we're gonna take some 3M tape and stick them on the bottom of the unit. So they're still kind of centrally located. I can still see them, but they're not in the way. I don't have a vise here, but I do have paving stones and a hammer. So I was able to kind of crudely bend the brackets up. They actually lined up with some of the screws that were already in the dash, which is freaking awesome. No new holes. So that's mounted up. Now all we got to do is, remember we talked about possibly having to do diverters for the heater? That's gonna have to happen. So what we're gonna do is get some cardboard, get back there and block off the front part so they just blow on out the sides into the footwells instead of out the middle, because it's just gonna cook that blower motor. So we'll make a little cardboard template for that. Although with summer coming on, I'm not super concerned with having to mess with the heater anytime soon. So we might just wait and focus on getting our AC going first. So I bought this whole kit, and I was really hoping it would kind of look like it might fit, and you know, the vibe of the car, the era, I mean, and I think it's okay. I would prefer a vintage era unit, obviously, but I didn't have a spare $3,000 lying around, so that'll do for now. Now what we got to do is figure out where we're going to hang the dryer on its little bracket. We got to figure out a drain for the evaporator. And then we also have to figure out our bracket situation for the condenser. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to hook the gauges all back up so it doesn't start an electrical fire. And then we'll just set them on the floor down there and I think we're gonna drive to a hardware store so we can get some bar stock to make more paving stone hammer brackets for the condenser to go up here. Toolbox all over. And get all that figured out. And then once that's all done, we got to figure out how to run the hoses. And we're gonna have to drill a couple of holes in our firewall to get those into the engine bay. Luckily, these kind of come in the same spot down here. So I think what I'm gonna do is just run this one straight. We'll bust a small hole right here, and then we'll actually feed this one up into that hole as well. So we'll only have one hole in our firewall that wasn't there before. I feel good about that. The carpet is glued in, unfortunately, so we'll have to probably just and then blow a hole, but super easy. And then that'll obviously tell us where it's gonna come out. I will measure with a tape from the tunnel over, from the floor up, and kind of get across on the other side of the firewall, so we know exactly where these are gonna come out. Obviously, if this is gonna be like, that's an exhaust manifold right there, we'll put it somewhere else, but it'll be somewhere up here, so you don't have to look at it. And yeah, we're chipping along at this. We're also going to need to go pick up some R134 refrigerant and a vacuum pump, because you got to evacuate the system before you can charge it. But we talked about that yesterday. So I've got a shopping list, gauges now, and then we'll run to the hardware store and get some stuff. All right, so we got this mounted up. We got the gauges wired back up. There's an alligator clamp on the ground because I thought I had a roll of wire with me. I didn't, so I'm glad I didn't need that on my drive. But they all work. The box is mounted in there solid. We got to make a run to the hardware store to pick a bunch of stuff up, but first I got to let this silicone dry. Man, isn't that ugly? Yeah. That water neck doesn't seal great, so that's just a precaution. We're just being safe. It's one of those like, oh, it swivels, cheese ball bull crap ones. So that's how we're choosing to do that. It's hideous, and eventually I'll just throw another water neck on it, but for now it's gonna work, probably. So we're gonna let that cure for about an hour, and then we're gonna send it. So everything up here is buttoned up, completo. We gotta top off the rad, but again, we're gonna wait for that to cure. Everything that's mounted to the car currently is mounted solid enough for a drive. All these bolts are nice and tight. Guys, on there. We need to pick up a belt too. I'm gonna add that to my list real quick. The instructions in the kit say typically 60 to 61 inch belt. So what I will probably do is grab a few and then we'll just return the ones we don't need. And then we should be good. That's where we're at with that. As I said, we're getting there, actually. The amount of parts that are not on the car is still more than what's on the car. And the part of the installation that's left is the hard part, which is all the plumbing and wiring. We still gotta mount the dryer too. But we're getting there. Okay. We got everything mounted and properly grounded. As you can see, all the lights are on. They're all mounted up. They're actually, like I said, grounded properly without an alligator clip. Not sitting on the tunnel anymore. Got a nice piece of 3M tape holding those on there. Thanks, Tommy, for that idea. That looks great. From the seat, obviously, we can still see all our gauges. It still looks pretty damn clean. And we've got everything on there. So, that's that hurdle over and done with, which is good because that was kind of a big one. So now we gotta do the condenser and the dryer and hoses and wires and all kinds of stuff. But I think we'll start with the condenser. I went and got a hardware kit, some metal, and a hole saw bit. That's for the hoses to get through the firewall. I think that's all we're going to need for that. It shouldn't be too hard to do. We are also going to be replacing the front shocks because they're shot. The tire on this side is rubbing a little now, which it wasn't before. So, blown shock. We'll replace those. We'll have the front end of the car up to do all that. So, I'm so sweaty. I'm gonna get started on that. Get the condenser mounted up, and then once we have that mounted in, we'll figure out where we're gonna put the dryer, and we'll just mount that inside the car. The engine bay of the car, not in the car. That'd be stupid. All right, here's where we are now. I have the condenser and its fan mounted. Some custom bracketry. It's about a 1/4 inch from the radiator. Perfect. We get some of the hoses kind of laid in here to mock up and see how that's going to go. We might not have enough number 6 hose, which is what goes from the condenser to the dryer to the evaporator. We'll find out when we go and hook it up. We're going to have plenty of number 8 and number 10, which is the, all the other hoses. But next step is going to be hole sawing a couple of holes in the firewall of the car, which hurts my soul very much. But kind of don't have a choice. If I want air conditioning, I'm gonna have to blow some holes in it. So what I think we're gonna do, here's what I'm thinking for the hole. Right about here. We'll put our first hole, and then start running stuff and see how it all fits. Also need to mount the dryer still, and I'm kind of holding off on that because I want to see where some of this hose lands. Because, of course, it's got to go in there somewhere. Condenser to the dryer will be that little run there, and then that run will go out behind the motor along the firewall, down here through the hole we make in the floor and into the evaporator. So that's kind of the crucial one. We need to lay the harness in here and make sure that's all going to fit too. I'm going to procrastinate on blowing a hole through the firewall of the car because I don't want to. Eat some dinner, and then I might come out and work on this some more today. If not, we'll of course be out here tomorrow. So, as we are further postponing drilling holes in the car, which I don't want to do, shocks. I was like, yeah, that front right feels a little funny. And the reason for that is it's collapsed completely. This is supposed to be like that. And not supposed to stay down. So she's blowed up. Got some KYB shocks from the local parts store. Gonna throw those in, and that will fix our problem. KYB makes a pretty decent shock. So I'm gonna throw that in with a fun bag of new hardware. And call that good. We're gonna do both fronts because you really got to replace them in pairs. So I went ahead and got both. So we'll throw those in, and then maybe we'll consider the holes we have to drill. Got both shocks on the front. I'm just tightening up the last of the lug nuts. Pop that hubcap back on. Good to go. Front suspension actually does what it's supposed to do again. That's fun. So now we have to do stuff we don't want to do. Maybe there's something else we can. I do have the rear springs. No. Let's do the AC. Finally figured out where I want to drill it. Worked up the courage to do it. And we got in there, and you're like, wow, that's a weird looking hole. Yeah. The drill bit that came with our hole saw is not a 2-piece drill bit, but is now a 2-piece drill bit. So I gotta go back to Lowe's and buy another drill bit of this size. We're probably also gonna get a 1 size up hole saw bit, because that's a 1.5, and now that I'm looking at it, it's looking like it's gonna be a bit too small. So what I'm gonna do is get a 2-inch, and I loosely measured like the outer diameter of all 3 hoses, and it's about that. So we'll try 2-inch, and then do that, because I'd rather have 1 2-inch than 2 1.5-inch holes and have much dead space in between. So we'll try and cram them all through 1 2-inch hole. Should about fit. And then hopefully we'll also have enough room to also squeeze our little pigtail for the evaporator through, and the drain. And I think we will have enough room for all that in a 2-inch hole if I've done my measuring correctly. So we're gonna go do that. And also, while we're at Lowe's, we're gonna see if they have any more number 6 air conditioning line, because I don't think we're gonna have quite enough. It'll be really close. So I'm gonna take a picture of the specs on this and see if they carry anything like that in their HVAC section. Hopefully they do. If they do, I'll just buy another 3 feet or so, and then we'll be fine. So I've battened down the hatches with the new shocks in and stuff. I guess this will be a good test drive. So we got our hole drilled. I lined it with some split in half fuel hose, but this is our big line from the evaporator to the compressor. And the way I've got it routed here, it was just long enough. I actually didn't have to trim any off. I wish it was maybe 6 inches longer. I wanted to kind of run it back, but that'll do. It is connected, it is clamped, it is good to go. I did order some more number 6 hose from the company I got the kit from. I couldn't find any locally, so we got a little bit more of that coming just in case. Yeah, we did the easiest run first because of course we did. But now we got to do all the rest. We got to go compressor to condenser, and then we got to go condenser to everything else. So we'll do the number 8 line next. That's these two. I sound like the movie theater kid from The Simpsons. We will get that situated somehow. I have a lot of number 8 I have a lot of number 8 hose, and not long to go with it. So what I'm gonna do is probably, my brother wanted to just go boop, but wow, radiator's warm. I just drove the car. So I don't want to do that. I might stick it out this way and kind of loop around and back just around the compressor so it doesn't get anywhere near the belt. So we'll figure it out. We got some figuring to do here. These hoses all good to go. I'm glad I went ahead and ordered more of the number 6 line, because once we got all that connected up down here and fed through the hole and run the way we want to run it, it's like a 1.5 feet short, so I ordered a 3-foot section. 1 to 5 days is what they said that'll take to get here, so we'll have enough. We just need to put it in. The other thing we can do right now is install the dryer. I think we're kind of just put the dryer where this lands, right about here, and then the outlet will be here, and then we'll have to get it down there somehow. The other thing we could try is putting it up here, cutting this short. We'd have a straighter run down to the thing. So I'll fiddle with it a little bit and see what kind of works, but for the most part we're almost done with plumbing, which is pretty rad. Just the wiring next, which I'm not excited about, and then we get it charged and pray that it doesn't leak. Okay, I actually just went ahead and threw the wiring harness on. I gotta be honest with you, that was so easy, even I could do it. And that is saying something in regards to electrical work. Like, so clown shoes easy. It literally just laid in. Everything was pretty much perfect. I have yet to connect the main power, because I'm waiting until everything's plumbed to do that. I don't want to burn up the system and everything. But everything was labeled. All I did was kind of zip tie it where I wanted it, and I ran it as neat as I could. The ground, all this, the relay is there on the dash. This one lead was a little long, so I coiled it up and put it there. Actually, I might clean that up and do a cleaner coil when I turn the camera back off again. But that's all fed through here. I got the lead going into the car, which follows the hoses. All that's left is the keyed ignition switch for the unit itself and the main battery, which is fused, which is pretty good. And the wiring portion of this job is done. So all we're waiting for now is that last hose, the last piece of hose, and some refrigerant, and we'll have air conditioning. So pretty exciting, pretty cool. This whole install was, say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna put it at like 6. So, yeah, but not that bad. You could do it. Anybody could do it. If I could do it, you could do it. Like, I can't stress how mediocre I am. But I mean, if you are looking at one of these kits and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Listen, if you can do, we'll say, moderate maintenance on your vehicle, like if you can change an intake gasket, if you can pull your valve train off, if you can change a camshaft, you can do this. This is so easy. I can't stress how simple this was. This is a kit from Cold Master is the company. I got it on eBay. It came with everything except for the brackets for the compressor, which, because this is a small block Chevy, were super easy to find and bolted right in. So I'm assuming it'll probably be just as easy to find stuff for, say, small block Ford. But if you have a Buick or a Mopar or a Cadillac or something like that, probably not as easy to find the brackets. You might have a little bit of a time there, but got lucky. This is a small block Chevy, so everything was just kind of out there. Everything's reproduced, etc. Like I said, that's probably going to be your hardest part if you don't have a catalog motor like a small block Chevy. But I mean, we are a belt, one hose, and 2 wires away from completing the system and being able to go and get it charged. So really exciting. I'm probably going to go get my multimeter and run those wires, and then that's that. I mean, we're waiting on parts again, so I'm going to go do that. Connected our battery, and I also hooked up the switch to a 12 volt keyed source, which, if you don't know how to do or find 12 volt keyed, easiest thing in the world. Put your key in, roll it forward, and then basically all you got to do is take a multimeter. I have an auto ranging one from Fluke. Just put it on volts and then poke the different posts on your fuse block until you find one that's got 12 volts. In my case, there were a couple, so I just chose one. Hypothetically, with the key rolled forward, if I turn the fan switch on, we should get airflow, if this is all correct. Matthew McConaughey concurs. Yeah. Wow, that's the low setting? Damn, that thing moves some air. All right. I was worried this thing was going to be super lame, but that airspeed is intense. I mean, on full maximum Florida mode, I don't think we're going to have any problem as long as the temps coming out of that thing are even halfway decent. I'm really happy with that. All right. 6 tries to get the belt correct, but we officially found the one that works with this kit. It's a 15560 Duralast belt from AutoZone. All the fittings are all nice and tight. We used one of those rental tool vacuum pump things, which was completely broken. Thank you, AutoZone. The gauge set and all that, and then we used a couple of cans of R134. But now, yes, I forgot to record just about all of it, and I'm sorry. It'd be like that. Okay. I'll put it on 1 to make it easy. We've got it on maximum cold, and it is coming out cold. You heard the engine bog down a little bit. You can See, the light came on the solenoid. The clutch is now spinning on the compressor, and our fan is going. And so we put the caps back on. We have completely functional AC. 1967 Buick, which did not come with factory AC. It's just one of those cheese ball under dash units. Oh, the door opens, the light's on. Pretty simple. Here, the engine idle back up because the AC is off. Here's just fan. No air. There's a little light here. But when I turn the air to cold mode, it kicks on there. And that's like minimum cold to all the cold. There's hurricane wind. No air, all the air. Keep those closed so we get all that airflow coming out this side. And I tell you what, I think we're going to be okay here in Florida now that we've got AC. So, man, what a friggin' slog that was. I just can't get over. So cold. I've only ever had like 2 cars with working AC. I had a police interceptor, like an 03 P71 that had AC, and my truck. And now this 57-year-old Buick. Plus, when the AC's on, it's at the perfect lope for the idle. Sounds mean. And just as some proof, I guess, to show you how cold it is, I went and grabbed a meat thermometer. Is it the coldest air conditioning in the world? No, but that's 44 degrees. I'll take it. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this episode of Road Hazard. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every like, every comment, every subscriber. On that note, go ahead and hit those buttons. Why not? Does me a favor. You know you want to. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate every single one of you. And I'll see you guys next time.